Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Walk of the Dog Cinema. And here we are, the Roca, getting ready. She's really excited. She's been a little cooped up today. Had a lot of things I had to do before getting back home from work, but she's a little amped, so mind the pulling and the ears back, and she just wants to go and get out here and see if she can catch other dogs and have her fun. But I don't think I could probably get her to even look at the camera if I called her name Roca. No, we're not gonna get it today. She's too excited. But anyhow, again, thank you for comments and some other posts. I appreciate it. Again, big one is you listen to anything that I have to say, please leave a comment, subscribe, enjoy this journey of talking about movies and just what we're watching and how everything's going about, and get to see my Labrador healer here every now and then, just having a good time out and about. But today we're still on the Amicus. Got a few more movies left to do, and today we are going to talk about my favorite one, Asylum. And so sit back, enjoy, and let me know what you think of Asylum. If you haven't seen it though, there will be some spoilers, so be prepared for that. And let's get going. So yeah, Asylum, an Amicus production, directed by Roy Ward Baker, who directed a ton of Hammer films. And he's I even want to think he directed, I almost want to think he directed a James Bond. I don't know why it comes to mind. I know a Hammer guy did Man with a Golden Gun. And that might have been Terrence Fisher or something like that. Escapes me, so I digress. But yeah, Roy Ward Baker, big British filmmaker, huge in the sense of doing Hammer. This is kind of his foray into Amicus. He might have done singular films for them, not anthology like for Amicus. I didn't really look it up. It doesn't ring a bell. I just know that he did a lot with Peter Cushing, obviously, and Christopher Lee in the Dracula series and Frankenstein series. I even want to say he might even done the werewolf one in the early 60s. I could be wrong about that, and I'm sure anybody out there could strike me down on that. I'm not like the raging expert of Hammer. I do know the movies when I see them, and I remember the movies, just don't always remember the directors and stuff. But this one, why do I like Asylum? Of course, I'm going to say of all of them, you got to watch this one. Another good one, which getting to From Beyond the Grave, is a little bit more serious production in the sense of it's kind of a little bit harder edge than the other ones, though this one has a little gore at the end. But I just think from an overall, how it's structured from an anthology film with our overarching taking place in an asylum, and that story wraparound is a lot of fun with Herbert Lom. Like I said, even one of the actors from Tales from the Crypt, he's Dr. Rutledge on this one, and he does good. And basically it's this doctor who comes to Asylum, and he gets tested to see if he can find Dr. Starr, who's gone crazy and is basically been a doctor who becomes one of the patients. And he goes in and gets tested and hears stories of basically 4 different inmates. 3 of them are longer stories. The 4th one is more of the wraparound. If I got that right, just watch it. But yeah, and I'll kind of get into that. But I kind of love the personal stories in this one, and like I said, how it all wraps around and kind of goes. It's a lot of fun. One of the stories is a similarity to Trilogy of Terror if you've ever seen that one with dual personalities. I like this one. It has Britt England in it from Wicker Man and Man with the Golden Gun. She was popular in horror movies of the 70s. She was a Bond girl, so she's great in this as Lucy. And so again, Herbert Lom's in this, who did some great horror movies and also Pink Panther. And I always like when he's involved. I've seen some pretty crazy ones that he's been in, but he has a great part in this, though it is rather small in one sense, but it's still, classic Herbert Lom, and it's fun. And so you have that, and like I said, I love the whole concept of it. And Roy Baker, you can kind of see his directorial style. It's very to the point. It kind of has a nice pacing, and he's not like big on just canted angles and things like that, but he does do a lot of like over the shoulder tracking, or lower shots where people look bigger than they are, especially when they kind of walk downstairs and things like that. So he has a kind of distinct style that you can see, but I think it's more how all his movies kind of get edited. He seems very efficient, and I kind of like that in this regard. So if you've seen it, kind of watch it for that. I think of all of them, this kind of is the one that's like really efficient with its timing and pace, and just how the whole movie kind of encapsulates itself. Torture Garden's probably the closest of the other ones. Like I said, From Beyond the Grave, which I'm going to review, has much more mature themes and is a little bit darker, and in that sense way like horrific. And I'm not saying this one doesn't have horror in it. I'm just saying that one's like more light R, where this is kind of pushing the limits of PG. And I'll have to say there is like a nostalgia factor to this. I first saw this movie when I was in 7th grade. They played it for Halloween, living in Maryland, and it was like a 16 millimeter reel, and they projected it. And I remember it was kind of one of those films, I don't know why it stuck with me, but I got nightmares that night. I still remember it to this day, like all these years later. But the movie's always kind of stuck in my head that way. But I just remember being captivated by this PG movie, like, wow. And it was kind of my foray into, as I kind of got older and discovered these movies again, getting into British horror and really like digesting Hammer and Amicus and AIP and of its ilk. And even though AIP is more Roger Corman, it still kind of had that same kind of gothic fashion, and didn't fully understand the actors, how they kind of moved about it themselves, even though AIP is more Vincent Price. But it's still how they kind of all mesh together a little bit. So it's kind of interesting, that period of horror, which had some great output, right? So Asylum is just one of my favorites. So Peter Cushing is also in this one. Amicus did like 10 movies in their time as a production thing. 7 of them were anthologies, 3 of them were kind of standalone from the horror genre, and Peter Cushing was in 8 of them. I think he's in Gorgon, if that's the other, and I think he's in all the anthology ones. Now, Milton Subotovsky did do Monster Club, not technically an Amicus production, but everyone involved was kind of a part of that, except for Vincent Price in that one. And I'll be getting to that movie too. So anyhow, like I said, the movie in and of itself, I think is a great premise. So this doctor under Dr. Rutledge, trying to convince him to see if he can identify Dr. Starr, goes up and he meets the first possible person involved, or that's mentally incurable, and this is the kind of the tale that set it up that I remember in 7th grade. But basically, this husband, and darn it, the actor, but I've seen him in other movies. He wants to leave his wife, He has a bitter relationship. Basically, she has all the money and she's gonna keep him around to make him miserable. And he has a surprise for her, a meat locker downstairs, and you can kind of all see it get set up. And lo and behold, he calls his mistress. They're gonna get out and about, and he proceeds to kill her. It's a horror movie, so no shocks there, right? And we get it to where he basically chops the body up and wraps it up in basically butcher's meat paper, and dumps this like voodoo trinket of hers. I wouldn't say it's voodoo, it doesn't really imply, but it is a spiritual trinket, I think from like Africa or something. And basically it kind of resurrects her body to create revenge. And the mistress, and you get a whole mess of stuff going on within that. And you'd say, well, how does a dissected body really convey seriousness? I mean, there's a little bit of camp here, but you know, Roy Baker, I mean, he really fine tunes the suspense and the fun of it in the sense it kind of settles on the ridiculousness of things, but at the same time plays it so serious, tongue firmly in cheek in that regard, that it can be cheaply done or kind of comical, but at the same time quite frightening. And I love the aesthetics of it. Everything's kind of modern and the colors, but when you see the wrapped body in action, and how it goes about getting its revenge, is absolutely fantastic for me. I just dig it. It's a fun set piece for me. And then the mistress comes in and she basically goes crazy because of what she sees, right? And so that's the first story. Trust me, that doesn't spoil anything. Actually, it's a fun ride getting there, because you're introduced to the lady that's basically incurable. So doctor goes to his the next patient, and it's an older man who you find out is a tailor, and basically he's about to get evicted from his tailor shop if he doesn't pay up rent. Lo and behold, Peter Cushing shows up and wants him to make a suit out of some really strange like moon material. That's all I can kind of say. And you know, there's sorcery involved here. This one I'm not going to quite give away, because the ending you might not totally see coming in that sense. And so the ride getting there is quite interesting on how this guy becomes a little crazy, so to speak. So there's a couple portrayals in this one that are kind of interesting to me. So that's why I kind of don't want to give it away, because there's two of them. So that one I kind of want you to experience for yourself if you've never seen it. If you've seen it, you get what I'm talking about. I could talk about it, but that's kind of the threadbare of the story. Again, like I said, the build up to it, I like. It's a fast-paced story. You know, it's a lot of interesting shots of him making this suit out of this material, and there's some dialogue that sets it all up. And then when we get to the main attraction with Peter Cushing and this man trying to collect his money, it all becomes interesting, really interesting, and that's just the beginning of it, you know. So it's a good little 15-minute short about this. So it's like I said, I really don't want to spoil that one, but it is kind of a fun one. And then we get to the third one. This is the one with Britt Akelin, and the kind of, you see this lady talking to the doctor. No one's going to believe her story. And we get the story of a brother and sister. The sister's quite rich, and she's coming back from the mental asylum. And it kind of devolves into this other girl named Lucy, who's Britt Eklund, and even the actress, I've seen her in quite a few movies in and of themselves. I forget her name, but anyhow, they both do a great job, and it just goes from there on how Lucy's going to help her friend here get freedom, so to speak. And you kind of see this twist coming a mile away. It's about dual personalities. Kind of even when the story starts, it's not really too shocking. So again, that one I'm going to give away because it's more about the ride than it is the twist. It's kind of the weaker of the stories in one sense, though Britt Eklund as Lucy is absolutely fantastic. And there is a couple great murder set pieces in this one. So in that sense, it's, like I said, it just all kind of crackles with energy, and it's worth getting there. And then we get to the fourth story, which is Herbert Lom. He claims he's a doctor, and he can transfer his mind to these little mechanical dolls that look like him, and he can get his consciousness to do what it needs to do. After having a talk, the doctor has a decision. He kind of knows who Dr. Starr is, so he wants to go talk to Dr. Rutledge. Goes back down, and they get in all sorts of commotion, and lo and behold, Herbert Lom did transfer his consciousness into one of these little dolls, and yeah, we get a Chucky before Chucky kind of thing going on here. Again, tongue's firmly in cheek on this one. What the doll does, you kind of think, no way, but it's all kind of done in fun in that regard. And as we build to the climax, I'm not going to give that one away, though I wouldn't say the twist totally works, but I'll let you decide for yourself if you've never seen it. If you have seen it, comment in below what you thought of the twist that to this whole overarching story. But we get to a point where we see another car pulling up to the asylum, and it is suggested that we are going to repeat ourselves. So there is that. I'll kind of leave it hanging in the air there. There's a little bit of a spoiler there. Kind of give some of it away. That's okay. I still think it's, like I said, it's one of my favorites. Just has a lot of energy. It's great for, obviously, Halloween season. How can you not do asylums in a scary way? I mean, I guess there's some out there that have, but kind of most asylum movies I've seen that are worth watching have been worth watching to the most part. So if there's asylum movies out there like that I should check out, leave a comment below what you think. Otherwise, let me know some bad ones so I steer clear of them. But just let me know. I appreciate it. So that's Asylum. Enjoy it. Tell me what you think. Subscribe if you like what you see. Otherwise, have a good one, everybody.